We're back on the channel in 2025. It is good to be back with some more content, and we're kickstarting things off with my early AFL ladder predictions in 2025. Now, with the season still over 2 months away, this is kind of like my early take on how I feel the clubs are going to go ahead of the season. It's not really official. Things are going to change, pre-season, injuries, all of that stuff, but it's just what I'm feeling right now in my head. And also with this year in 2025, with the big things I have planned ahead, my goal is 60,000 subscribers. So if you're watching this, you might be new and you are a big fan of footy, it'd be great if you hit that subscribe button. We can start things off great in 2025. All right, so the Wooden Spoon is in 18th position. The clear selection for the Wooden Spoon, we have Richmond. I think they're probably in like 90+% of everyone's ladder predictions, and for right reason. They won the Wooden Spoon last year with just the 2 wins, and now they've lost 5 of their better mature age players. And it's a completely new look Richmond side. Like, not gonna lie, they're doing quite well in doing this now before the Tassie team comes in. But for the next few seasons, they're going to be a completely different look side, and they're going to find it really hard to get wins. Now, the people are saying the Tigers won't get a single win in 2025. I think that's a bit of a stretch. Every team seems to always find a win or 2 in a season, even if they're expected to finish absolutely rock bottom last. But it'll be exciting to see how their young draft picks perform. They're going to be a completely new side, and probably more exciting than teams like the Saints, not going to lie, in just terms of watching how they play. Finishing in 17th position, we have the West Coast Eagles. I believe they finished 16th last year, and I just cannot see much of a rise from the Eagles either. Tom Barrass is a massive loss because already it was hard for them to really be locked in as a defensive group. I know McGovern had a pretty strong year, but without Barrass, it's just going to make it even more difficult for them to really hold that structure up back. I know they brought in Liam Baker and Matt Owies. I think Baker's going to be a really solid addition for the next 5 to 10 years, potentially. Owies will provide that spark up forward, but it's just not enough for West Coast, in my opinion, just early on. I just haven't seen enough right now for West Coast to escape that bottom 2 position. They might finish bottom 4, but that's about as high as I can see them finishing. All right, so bottom 3 now, 16th position, and we have got Essendon, and it comes to not much of a surprise if you know me well, that I don't like the Bombers, but I just don't like where their club's heading. I don't see any upside. Every season for Essendon, it kind of seems to be the same thing. There's a bit of promise at the start of the year. They had a really good start to the season. I remember after that GWS game, they were in that top 4 area, but I just wasn't quite convinced. They were getting the wins against sort of the bottom ranked sides, and I just wanted to see it happen a little bit more consistently, and then the wheels really fell off and they derailed for the rest of the season, and they were really disappointing. I don't know why it is that they just finished season so underwhelming. It just doesn't give me good optimism ahead of the new season, and I just haven't seen enough for Western right now. They had a pretty average off-season. I know they brought in Keiko. He's going to be, him and Nate Caddy, they're honestly going to give fans so much excitement for the next 5 to 10 years for Western, but I think it's almost a guarantee that that winning final streak will continue for another year, and they're just not giving me much at all right now. The Bombers, I'm sorry, they're just staying at 16th for mine. All right, the last team in the bottom 4, 15th spot, I've got Melbourne. They dropped off big time last year, and they now look like a bit of a shell of their former selves. The glory days they had where they were finishing top 4. Disappointing for Melbourne because I just don't think they're now in that premiership window anymore. I think it's kind of penciled through a line that they're not back in contention, and it looks like they're probably on the way down. I feel like they're too heavily dependent on certain plays. For example, Max Gawn, he had a bit of an injury last year, which sort of put them in a bad position. Happens again, and it's going to just be even worse for them because I just don't have that second ruckman. Gawn's just too much of a dominant player. I did predict this fall off, and that was sort of pinpointed last year when their season sort of fell to crap with that King's birthday game when Petrarca went down. Didn't play since, and I know he's had an extremely fit and firing preseason. People are, I feel like, almost overrating how good he's going to be this year, and I just feel like they're in that position where they're just going to continue wanting to play the kids, get some new recruits in. Hopefully Langford and Lindsay, who they've brought in through the draft, will get games alongside Windsor, and preparing for the future right now because I just can't really see Melbourne competing for finals. They just had such a disappointing finish to last year, and I think it's going to continue. No Neil Bullen. Who knows with Oliver. Outside the bottom 4 now, we go to 14th position. North Melbourne. It's been now 6 years, I believe, since North Melbourne finished outside the bottom 2, let alone the bottom 4. So this has to be the year now. I don't think you can give any excuse to North Melbourne anymore. They're not even that young. They're still a young side, clearly, but they're not as young as we all are making them out to be. I mean, North fans are probably sick of hearing this word, hope. Hope, hope, hope. They're probably sick and tired of hearing that 50,000 times. And all this hope is getting them nowhere because nothing's happened for them. They've done nothing for the last 5 years. And with their huge crew of youngsters, particularly in the midfield, Wardlaw, Sheasel, just to name a couple, McKercher going through, and they've picked up some more over this offseason in Finn O'Sullivan. The consistency needs to come, okay? Like, you know, they can't be satisfied with a 5-win season. They only won 3 games last year. You know, they've got to avoid huge losing streaks. They've got to avoid 10+ goal losses. They've got to be more competitive now because they've gelled as a group. They've played the games together. I just feel like there's no excuse now for North. I think they're ready to, you know, have a good season, win maybe 8 games. compete against the better sides, actually get results against the better sides. And they've brought in Parker, they've brought in Daniel and Jack Darling. That should bolster their list quite a bit because it'll provide Northern with the experience and leadership that they probably deserve and they probably have been desperately craving. So we're going to have them 14th, but there's no guarantee with North considering we say it every year, it feels, and they just always finish bottom two. They're just so disappointing. Alrighty, in 13th position, I have the Gold Coast Suns. Right now, to be honest, I've sort of given up on constantly backing in Gold Coast the last couple of years. I think I had them in my 8 in the last 2 early ladder predictions videos. And right now, it's not going to happen unless I actually see it happen in real life. So they finished, 13th last year. I think they're going to be around the same mark at the moment because they continuously failed to meet expectations. 13th last year with such an easy draw, but away from home are where the struggles happen. And if they don't address that, they're just not going to see any improvements and the success isn't going to come. Rioli and Noble, they should help alongside the likes of Collins and Ballard down back. But because we haven't seen nothing from the Suns in the last 14 years at the moment, I'm just going to hold back for the Suns for now. They were disappointing last year. They might do the exact same thing. They might finally click, and I might be wrong. But Gold Coast, just do more for me, because you guys have been so disappointing for 14 fucking years. Alrighty, so 12th spot. I do like to throw in a few big calls and curveballs throughout these early ladder predictions. I've done in the last few years, and this is probably the first one that I reckon will potentially ruffle a few feathers. Carlton in 12th position. I don't know. I feel like this could be potentially a reasonable choice for the Blues. The way they finished last year was really disappointing. With their strong fan base the Blues obtained, I feel like they were quite overrated last year. Like, not going to lie, after round 12, they seemed to be probably the second seed. And then they just crumbled really badly. When injuries occur, they just couldn't find consistency. It feels like when a few of their star players get injured, their depth just seems to not get it done. They just don't have enough players to really fill in those roles where they probably had in 2023 at the later end of the year. It seemed like as well that defense seemed to weaken massively as the season went on. They got really lazy under pressure and manning up against opponents. They were just slow. It just feels like they were outworked a lot, and they left a lot of the work for Cripper to do, like a few plays to do. I'm not sure with Carlton if they continue with the injuries. I don't think they'll make the 8. If they have a fully fit year, I think they're potentially a chance of making top 4, but I still don't think they're that side that is ready to play in that grand final and win it. I don't know. I just don't really have the faith in Carlton anymore. 12th is a bit of a big call, but we're going to see what happens with the Blues in 2025. Speaking of sides that I think will drop quite heavily, a bit of a big call this one. 11th, I have Sydney now. This might change from now until early March. I could have Sydney in my 8, but with such a letdown in the grand final, I will find it hard to see them actually recovering and regrouping in 2025. And alongside a new coach, with Dean Cox, Longmire's out the door, who knows? It's a big question mark on how they're going to perform with a new coach. Maybe it'll take a year or two for the players to fully buy in. Maybe they could see themselves have another drop-off and have a, subpar season. Kind of like in 2022, they got smashed against the Cats, and the year after, it just wasn't quite the same. I know they made finals that year and had a few injuries, but this year seems a little bit differently. Their forward line gives me concerns. They just didn't get any output from them, particularly in the grand final. They obviously were the best side last year for most of the competition for the first 15 rounds, but then we saw that fall off. That Port game gave me a few concerns. It might be Sydney again. I don't know. I'm a bit worried about the Swans. They'll be in and around the mark. They'll be a decent side, but will they be a great side? Right now, I'm not seeing it, but who knows? I might change my mind on that one a little bit later. Now we move to 10th position, kind of like the no man's land spot, and I'm going to put in St Kilda for now. A lot of people are asking me and have been asking me where I see the Saints performing in 2025. Will we make finals? And to be honest with you, I've got absolutely no idea. I just don't with the Saints. I feel like it's a very safe bet to put the Saints in a position from 6th to 12th, because over the last 5 years, it seems to be true. We just can't make that push upwards, and we just haven't been able to drop low enough to get a really high draft pick. Although in saying that, I do believe we've nailed, for the most part, our draft selection. I'm actually quite excited to see Travaglia have a few games, Alex Turu down back, because we lost Battle. He was a really important player for us last year. We're going to need to probably replenish those defenders, because I think with the Saints, their kind of main component is their defense. And I don't know, it's just hard to see that much of a rise in St Kilda, considering the off-season was a little bit dull. I know they brought in Jack McRae, but I don't think that's enough. That's not going to be enough for me to put them having that elevation to finish top 4. I think Saints, they're capable certainly of making finals. It's just whether or not they'll do any damage in the finals. And they had a really strong finish last year. Their electric finish makes me quite excited, but they're also very capable of being a side that could finish bottom 4. Really, really mediocre at times and make you fall asleep. The Saints can be such a hard side to watch at times. No side wants to finish 9th, but the side I've got right now are the Adelaide Crows. And I'm liking the position the Crows are at the moment. I know they had a poor season in 2024. A lot of people thought they were going to rise that year and really make the next step and finish
I said third, which is stupid because I finished 15th. But I think they're going to be in genuine finals contention again this year. They had a really good off-season, probably one of the best of any club. Bring in Neil Bullen, who finished third for the D's in their best and first last year. He's going to bolster that midfield group that the Crows are probably looking to just, top up a little bit on, I feel. Cumming, I like the look of as well. He's a great player off half-back, and Peatling had a good season for the Giants. I'm liking the look of him. So all three players will make immediate improvements. I like Thilthorne's return last year to finish the year. His form was pretty good after injury. He looks strong and fit. And I'm going to say this right now. He could be a smoky for the Coleman because Walker's on the out. They're not really going to kick it to him as much, as he didn't have much of an impact last year, which is maybe why they fell off a little bit. They weren't as, they were probably too dependent on him in 2023. And they're probably wanting a little bit more output from the players such as like Rochelle. If they can be more threatening at home like they were in 2023, I think they can make the push into the 8. So a disappointing year last year, but I'm liking the look of Crows. I think they're going to bounce up a little bit. Matthew Nix, you need to make finals, my friend. Otherwise, you might be out the door in 2026. So we move now into the top 8. The first side, I'm not confident with in putting them in this position, but I think they're good enough. It's the Western Bulldogs. They're a weird side, aren't they? They've got a huge amount of upside with the amount of talent that they have in their team. Like Sam Darcy, he could be the best player in the comp in the next couple of years, but they could also slip down the ladder if they're not careful and put, Bevo under a lot of fire once again, because I don't know, they started really inconsistently, the Dogs. They had a really bad start to the year. They just couldn't gel together as a club. I feel like their bottom 6 players, whilst they have a lot of stars in their side, obviously Bont and all that, but their bottom 6 just don't get the job done week in, week. They also lost 3 quite valuable players, I would feel, in Smith, Daniel, and McRae, so their list didn't get any better. They got exposed against the Hawks in that finals campaign, which is interesting because both the Dogs and the Hawks probably had the best finishes to 2024. Probably leaves a bit of a bitter taste for the Dogs. So I don't know how they're going to respond from that in 2025. They could start well, they could start poor. It's really difficult to see where they're going to do. In 7th position, I have Port Adelaide. Now, Port Adelaide seem to always do enough to play finals consistently year on year. They seem to always be in the finals, and as of late, top 4 even. Normally seem to be a really strong home and away side. It's just their finals campaign that seems to let them down all the time. The way they came against the Cats and provided absolutely nothing. They just let Geelong walk over them in a home final. They beat the Hawks, and then they were poor against the Swans. They should have lost that game by probably 9-10 goals. So just hard to see where Port Adelaide are at after that. Haven't improved their list at all, to be honest with you. I mean, they're going to miss Houston's drive of halfback. He was their best player probably over the last few seasons. What is Radagalier providing up there? What's Marshall providing up there? I don't know if they're going to get enough scoring output from those plays. They're a talented side, particularly their midfield, but I don't know. Will that be enough for them to win them enough games in 2025? Probably. I think having them in the 8 at the moment is a safe call, but it wouldn't be surprising to see the power drop out fully. And a lot of people are seeing that. I've seen some predictions saying Port could finish as low as 13th, 14th. Okay, 6th position. We have Collingwood. I feel like with everything the Pies have sacrificed to land the big fish during this off-season, what they've done to basically say, yeah, all these draft picks that we probably need for the future, you guys can go fuck off. We want Houston. We want all these other plays. For now, 6 is almost a bare minimum for Collingwood. I think they're going to really want to push for another flag before everything's too late. And you can make the argument that a lot of people are overrating Collingwood's campaign heading into this year and what they've done to get those plays. But I think you've got to understand last year, they've had issues with injuries here and there. Like Tom Mitchell didn't play. De Goey he just missed too much footy. They didn't really have a key 4 that really did enough for them. But obviously they landed Houston, who's at the moment in the prime of his career. 2 All-Australians. He's just such a damaging player off half-back. So it's going to make him a better side, Collingwood, with their ball movement. And I like the Membry addition as well. He was good at the Saints. Good to see him kicking 40-plus goals for the Pies. They need a player like that also. I just don't think they'll make top 4, though, because they've got a hard fixture. A really hard start. Yeah, they were exposed last year after winning the flag, but I think they'll be back in the finals. They should be with their additions. And the final side to miss out on the top 4, we have GWS. I think the Giants are just going to have another pretty similar season to last year. Of course, they've got some key outs that they had over the off-season, obviously bringing a few draft picks through that, but some key outs could raise a few concerns heading into 2025 without Cumming, Perryman, and Peatling. But I still think the Giants, like losing a few of those players, but I think they'll still be in and around the mark. They could have easily made the grand final last year. They shouldn't have lost that first final. They certainly shouldn't have lost that second final. So they'll be in and around that mark. They might be a little bit too dependent on Hogan with that big season he had last year. Potentially they're missing those 1 or 2 quality halfback mid plays that could help them go all the way. The Giants will be in and around it once again. They're a good side. They've got Kingsley, who I rate highly as a coach. So 5th from on for the Giants, top 4 potentially. All right, we move into the top 4, and the first team that I have in 4th position, and we have Fremantle. I'm genuinely really bullish on the Dockers heading into this year. Apparently, so are others.
But there's always a side outside the 8 that makes into the top 4. Freo is the most likely side of mine, and I think they'll make it in 2024. And top 4 seems to be a pretty decent chance. I mean, look, they should have obviously made finals last year. I believe like the Blues in 2022, they were in the finals, like the top 8 every year, but the last. Obviously, they choked under the pressure in those last few games. They couldn't quite get it done. And despite them not even making finals altogether, they probably should have made top 4 because they were there for a lot of the season. So I think they had the motivation, the rebound, they go again. They've got all 3 lines, midfield, defense, forward, covered, I feel. They've got such a complete list at the moment. Got a good mixture of youth and also a little bit of experience heading through. They're definitely missing Tracy finishing last year, but he had an extremely impressive year. Him and a miss, they're going to be super exciting. And I think they're the sort of side that are capable of making like their home ground a big fortress away from home, Optus Stadium. And now they've got Shai Bolton. People forget how good of a player he is. Like, yes, he's had a little bit of a down bit of form, but that was probably because he just wasn't really feeling it at Richmond. New environment. He's going to thrive at Freo, I feel. I think he could be a better recruiter over Houston. Dockers 4th for mine. Exciting for Freo. I've just got to put it all together now and actually prove to their fans that they're ready. 3rd place for mine, I've got last year's premiers in Brisbane. It's really hard to honestly make a case for why they wouldn't once again finish in the top 4. I know in recent years, yes, teams that have won the flag have actually had poor years the year after. I don't think we've had a Premier win a final since 2019, but Brisbane to me seem like a bit of an outlier for that because their list continues to seem to get better and they've got a good mix of youth and experience as well. They bring in Levi Ashcroft, who's going to be as good as Will Ashcroft, who won the Norm Smith. And then you think with Brisbane as well, they're going to get Kaden Coleman back. They'll get Tom Doody back. Coleman was such an important piece of the pie in 2023, so they're arguably going to get even better in 2025. I know Danaher's retired, so there'll be a little bit of a hole in that position. Potentially Hip will need to step up. But if Prison still have the hunger, which I believe they would, I mean, I think after winning that flag, it puts that monkey off the back after being in the top 4 for so long. I expect once again Brisbane, they'll be up and amongst it again in 2025. They should at the moment. Okay, for the top 2, second spot, I've got Hawthorn. Perhaps one of the most overhyped sides heading into 2025 or in really any year, to be honest with you. But with the way they finished last year, you can't deny why that's the case. And they've even got better as a side over the offseason, addressing their needs to just really strengthen that defense that they probably had a bit of a weakness, especially at the start of last year. Obviously, Barras, we know how good he has been at the Eagles. And then Battle, he's recently emerged as one of the better intercept defenders in the league. Hawthorn right now, they've got everything going, I feel like, with the way they finished last year with such good form. Should have beat Port. Could have beat Sydney, could have gone all the way. But there is that possibility that maybe that hype is a little bit too much and they might find a little bit of a reality check in 2025. I can see that potentially happening. I don't think I'm going to stick with the second position for my proper ladder predictions, but Hawthorn in second is possible. It really is. I feel like that may be part of the reason why they performed so well to finish off the year. They were riding all that momentum. Will that happen again? Potentially not, but I think they're going to be a bit more of a mature side and they're going to be more consistent because they started 0-5 last year, the Hawks, and they can't allow that to happen again if they want to finish in the top 4. And that leaves one more side to go in first place. I'm actually going to have Geelong. At the moment, I see the Cats having, another great year. I think they're going to continue on from where they left off last year. They were only 1 kick away from probably winning a flag, to be completely honest. And they're going to be an even better side this year, with the midfield still being probably their big weakness, even though Paddy Dangerfield had a really strong year in 2024. Bailey Smith, 1 year off the sidelines, back to Geelong, and he is going to have an extremely impressive year, I feel. He could also be in contention for one of the recruits of the season. So they're a scary side now, the Cats. They're coached by one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the AFL, and Chris Scott. And I think once again, they're going to just go all at it to try and win another flag. They've got an extra game at GMHBA. That's going to help as well. And I just feel like the Cats, you can just never write them off. Every year people seem to do it, and they always find their way back to the top. And I just don't think it's going to happen again. You know I don't like the Cats, but I just respect the way they go about it. They lost Hawkins, but he basically didn't even provide any value at all in 2024. And then Jezel Cameron, the way he finished off last year as well, he's going to be once again a chance for the Coleman in 2025. So they've got everything going their way. I feel like you've also got Jack Martin. He'll probably have a Tyson Stengel type year, probably after being delisted. I'm pretty confident they're going to have another really strong year, and top 4 looks to be quite likely. So we've got Cats to finish off in first position. I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, let's move the Cats scarf out the way and wrap it up now. Those are my early ladder predictions for 2025. Leave yours down below. Obviously, it's not official. We haven't seen preseason. We don't know what's going to happen from now till the next 2 months. I know the footy season's still 2 months away, and yes, it feels ages away. I know I'm probably not going to just do footy content this month. January is going to be a month where I'm going to try a lot of different things on the channel. So, yeah, be on the lookout. I've got some really exciting videos coming up soon that I am editing tomorrow I'm going to release my 2024 year review video that I always do. It's a bit late, but you guys will hopefully enjoy that. But yeah, leave your predictions down below. You know, who's going to be the surprise packet? There's always a side from outside the bottom 10 that ends up finishing in the top 4. So Freya's my pick. Hope maybe it's St Kilda. Who knows? But yeah, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you very soon in my next video.